I'm going to give a brief update on the work we're doing to attract and support experimenters in GE. This is an effort that we've been really engaged in for a couple of years and have turned up the heat on a fair amount this year. And I believe we can report that it's producing results. GE is gaining traction with experimenters. We're getting more people signing up, more people using GE. And those pesky users, as you start to attract people, the wish list tends to build up. This is, of course, the key to a spiral development project like GE. Build something, try it out, learn what works and what needs improvement, and that list is continuing to build, and it's starting to coalesce. I'm going to break that up a little bit into what we're hearing from more experienced experimenters and what we're hearing from our newer set of experimenters. Experienced experimenters seem to be starting to hit some of the limits of GE. And we hear reasonably consistent requests, more sites that are deeply programmable. The number of dots on the map is okay, but it could be a lot bigger. More compute resources, longer-lived slices with opportunities for persistence and sort of other long-lived experiment management tools. Now, the good news here is that this is not a surprise. We've been hearing this for a couple of years, and the kinds of plans that Heidi already reported on in the GE expansion will make a big difference in the kinds of opportunities that are available for experimenters. GE racks are putting a lot more dots on the map. Each one of those dots is a meaningful, deeply programmable site with compute resources, storage resources, open flow network resources. So we're going to make some giant strides, and this is all scheduled out over the course of the next 6 to 18 months. So that's good news. On the side from our new experimenters, we've been getting more and more clearly the message that we need to continue making easy things easy. And I do need to apologize to the Perl folks. When I pulled this phrase out of the back recesses of my brain last time, I simply forgot that this is the catchphrase on the Llama book. So if you're a Perl person, this probably seemed very familiar to you. Anyway, the new experimenters are really looking for improvements in ease of use and need some more training opportunities. Some of the top items that we hear about time and time again: simplify my setup. There's too much work managing keys and configuring tools in order just to get started. The documentation either doesn't exist or isn't as well organized as perhaps it could be. It would be better to have, in addition to sort of tool documentation, some online training materials. How do I get started with my first experiments? How do I modify these existing experiments to set up my own? Some of these issues are addressed by the prototype clearinghouse and portal work that you will hear reported on right after lunch. So come back this afternoon, you get a little preview of the portal and clearinghouse and have a chance to influence the progress of that work. And a question that Jeannie Albrecht is going to report on in about 6 minutes is some of the work we're doing to look at the classroom as the next frontier for attracting GE users. Just on Sunday, GE ran a workshop that was sponsored by NSF on curriculum development for distributed systems instruction. And we had a bunch of people who were very interested in using GE or similar shared test beds in their instruction. And we got some challenges identified. What do we need to do to be able to support that kind of work? So I've got some nice statistics to report. These are graphs coming out of Protogene, as it turns out, which is the one aggregate type that's currently reporting these sorts of statistics. We are working to collect similar statistics on other GE aggregates. This is data I pulled last week, so we didn't quite get all of the GEC bump in here, but it ought to be about right. And these are done by GEC epoch, so from the end of one GEC to the end of the next GEC. What you see graphed here are the number of unique users who created slivers at proto-Genie sites. So between GEC 13 and 14, something just north of 150 different people actually made a sliver and did something with it at a proto-Genie site. The graph on the bottom left is the total number of cumulative unique users who have ever made a sliver at a proto-Genie site, which is now growing past 450 towards 500. And the colored bar graph breaks those numbers down by site. And you'll continue to see, as you look at these quarter after quarter, sort of the same leading sites. The Utah Emulab site, many more users, Kentucky in second. And if you look at the very top of that rightmost bar, you'll see a little light blue square starting to appear. That's the new Utah Genie rack that you saw Rob demonstrate earlier. So just the very first few users on Genie racks are starting to show up. This is the same set of data instead of users. This is counting slivers. And the basic message here is, continued growth. Not only are the numbers going up, but they're relatively large numbers. The total number of proto-Genie slivers created to date is starting to look like a number around 1,800. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the work we're doing in training. We've held one Genie research and educational workshop that was in Los Angeles at GEC14, and a corresponding Genie summer camp that was held just this past May, June at RIT. Kai-Chi Xiong is organizing those. We have the next camp scheduled in June at the University of Connecticut. And Kai-Chi, I believe, has placed some brochures out back for people who are interested in having their students attend or who are interested in attending. Please be in touch with Kai-Chi or send mail to help@genie.net or grab one of the brochures in the back. We were somewhat oversubscribed at the last camp. It was 4 days of really quite densely packed instruction and project work, and it was very impressive to watch this group of about 20 students really buckle down, ingest a lot of information, and in a small number of days get a modest-sized project running that they could then take home and continue to work on over the course of the next few months in preparation for presenting a paper at the next workshop, which is planned for GEC14. Another sort of experimenter training that we're working on is developing sample experiments and assignments. So if you go to the Genie Wiki and click on the Experimenter tab as circled on the top here, you'll see the beginnings of a Genie experiment repository. These are a small number of curated experiments that are relatively easy to repeat and that are instructive for editing and setting up your own experiment. These are accessible experiments that represent a good candidate for the first thing to try if perhaps you've completed a Genie tutorial and you're ready to start building your own experiment that's you're editing yourself. We'd like this repository to grow. So if you have candidates for putting up here, please give me a buzz. We'll try to help get the thing properly assembled and packaged and posted. It's kind of obvious if you've been at a GEC for the past day and a half that we are having a lot of tutorials. This graph shows the number and duration of GEC tutorials starting about 2 years ago at GEC 7 when we had our very first. This has been a very successful campaign for training insiders. This is we've been focusing on our own community and the people who we can bring to GECs. We should certainly continue to do that. We also need to branch out. We need to start training outside of GECs. So we began that process this summer. with a couple of tutorials taught at non-Genie venues. We had a group of people out at TridentCom in Thessaloniki and at Sigmetrics in London. Due to clever timing, we managed to schedule both of those tutorials for literally the same day. Perhaps we shouldn't have done it quite like that, but we're trying to build a bit more of a campaign where we actually lead tutorials outside of Genie venues. If you're interested in presenting a tutorial or introducing your material into tutorials that can be offered to the general community, please do come see me. We're also trying to have tutorials that are accessible for people to run on their own. There are too many of the tutorials we lead here rely on special purpose resources that were set up just for one day. If you can get a tutorial together that does not rely on special purpose resources that can be always available and that people can use themselves, please do. I think that would be very valuable, and the GPO would be happy to help you assemble such a thing. A very good example, I believe, is the FLAC and InStools tutorial, which is described in a January 2012 SIGCOMM CCR note, getting started with Genie, a user tutorial. So if you're looking for kind of a template to think about your tutorial, you might want to take a look at that note. I want to highlight some of the improvements we have coming for experimenters. Obviously the big one is the upcoming Genie expansion, or the ongoing Genie expansion. More campuses, more racks. It's going to have a major impact on people's ability to build sophisticated experiments based on sophisticated topologies. Some progress has already been made in simplifying the key management and configuration and the general getting started problem. Some of this work is being embedded into the Genie clearinghouse and portal. Some of this work already exists in some of the recent releases of FLAC and Omni. We're expanding online tutorials and examples. And we've got an interesting project going that we're not quite sure how it's going to pan out, but we're looking at a downloadable offline Genie-like experience, which we're trial calling Genie in a bottle. Yeah, there are a bunch of groans. So we'll have to see. But you know, whatever we call it, there's some pull for an experience that one can have with Genie that does not rely on a lot of external resources. Build your own and then sort of stage into a deployment in physical Genie and perhaps a combined deployment in physical Genie and something like Primo Genie for scaling up to very large networks. And of course, we're continuing support for ongoing experiments with camps, workshops, help desk. Experimenters, a good time to make your voice heard and get your items added to this list or prioritize this list is in the experimenter roundtable tomorrow. So the call to action here, if you haven't already, it's about time you started your experiment. Come to tutorials, learn how to use Genie, visit the wiki, get an account, start your experiment. If you run into trouble, there is help. Help@genie.net gets me and several other people who are noticeably more knowledgeable looking at your particular problem. We're there for you. Thanks very much.